आमर जो मैंने ये अच्छा समस्त को स्वागत करने संगे संगे जड़े आपने जानती गत फेब्रुआरी 9 तारिख रे हमर डॉक्टर रविनारायण मिश्र सार गोटे स्पीच थिला कि कौन सी कारणवशत से डेरी रे पहुंच पारे तो आमे किछिटा शुणीचे तो ताकू आउ गोटे सुजोग कौन आमे देबा आमे निजे आउ गोटे सुजोग नबा पे चाहिलु जे से एते सुंदर कहले तो ताकठू आमे पूरा पूरा सुनिया भी इच्छा कलु आ से अनुसार आमे आउ थरे गोटे सुविधा सुजोग देखिरी आमे गोटे दिन फिक्स कलु जोटा कि आज आज सी कहिबे भारतीय वित्तीय क्षेत्र रो स्थिति और भविष्य विषय जहाँ कि कहते आ जहाँ भी बाकी अच्छी आज से 40 मिनिट समय पाखे अच्छी से आमको निश्चय अवगत करेंगे बहुत जिन जाना शिखा संचालन करेंगे आज कार्यक्रम को संचालन करेंगे श्री प्रताप कुमार आचार्य जे कि गत थर रविनारायण सार आबसेंस रे आमको बहुत जिन शिखेले जोड़ा कि आम जान नु तो ताकू बहुत धन्यवाद। तो वर्तमान मु अनुरोध करी श्री प्रताप कुमार आचार्य भाई को से आमर प्रवक्ता मुख्य प्रवक्ता परिचय दवा संगे संगे कार्य को आगे को बढ़ा श्री प्रताप कुमार आचार्य सर।
अच्छा जय जगन्नाथ वंदे उत्कल जननी संजोग परिवार तरफ आज वेबिनार संचालक हिसाब रे मु प्रताप कुमार आचार्य आपण समस्त को श्रद्धा सह प्रणाम जनाऊची। संजोग समान चिंताधारा रखुवा वरिष्ठ नागरिक मानकर गोटे व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बा एक फोरम बा संगोष्ठी आम समस्त प्रिय और श्रद्धेय हर भाई डॉक्टर हरप्रसन्न दास MAK मानव अध्ययन केंद्र ग्रुप ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशंस यह एक विशिष्ट इनिशिएटिव 2001 मसीह स्थापित होइतबा MAK ग्रुप देशर प्राय 25 टी राज्य और 150 रु ऊर्ध्व ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस बोथ पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट सेमानंकर सहित जोगाजोग करी सामाजिक सेवा कार्य रे विभिन्न स्तर रे विभिन्न उपाय रे व्यस्त रही। यार एसोसिएट ह्यूमन पोटेंशियल डेवलपमेंट ट्रस्ट भुवनेश्वर गत 4 वर्ष धरी 700 रु ऊर्ध्व छात्र छात्री मान को फ्री ऑफ चार्ज पोटेंशियल डेवलपमेंट रे ट्रेनिंग दे आछि। संजोग प्रत्येक कार्य मानव विकास और मानव कल्याण पर उद्दिष्ट परस्पर को साहाय्य करवा सामाजिक सहायता कार्य रे भाग नवा यथा विभिन्न बस्ती रे जाई वंचित लोक मान को लुगापटा दान करिया बंटन करिवा इत्यादि यार एक आत्म प्रदत्त कर्तव्य। प्राय प्रत्येक सप्ताह रे संजोग वेबिनार ऑर्गेनाइज करिथाय जो थरे विभिन्न सामाजिक उपयोगी विषय रे आलोचना होता है। प्रायतः गोष्ठी मध्य थिवा प्रतिभा को संजोग प्रोत्साहित करिथाय। से निजर अभूला स्मृति हो जेमती नुआ जॉइन करथिवा वाला कहंती बा जगन्नाथ महाप्रभु को विषय रे हो बा योगासन रो उपयोगिता विषय रे हो संगीत गीत विभिन्न जिनस तथा राष्ट्रहित और देशहित जनित विशिष्ट गुरुत्वपूर्ण विषय रे वेबिनार होता है। आज वेबिनार संजोग 128तम आवासी कार्यक्रम एक उपस्थित जातीय गुरुत्वपूर्ण विषय रे ज्ञानालोचना करिया पई आज वेबिनार ही डकाई जेपरी देश रक्षा देश शासन आईन कानून रक्षा आम देशर गुरुत्वपूर्ण क्षेत्र अटंती सेहीपरि एक शक्तिशाली और स्थिर वित्तीय क्षेत्र स्ट्रांग एंड स्टेबल फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर आम देशर अग्रगति पाई अति गुरुत्वपूर्ण। आगामी वर्ष मानकरे इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस एंड इंटरनेशनल वारफेयर will be decided mainly on not on the military front mainly but on the financial and economic front। कौन सी देश को कबल को नवा को हेले बा सेमान को कबलक्त करबा को हेले मेजरली सेमानकर फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर को कबल को नवा पड़ियो। एही क्षेत्र रे एही फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर रे बैंक्स नॉन बैंकिंग फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर कॉर्पोरेट बॉन्ड मार्केट कैपिटल मार्केट ये सब गुड़ित जड़ित एवं एमानकु सठिक भाव में संचालित करिया पई फाइनेंशियल रेगुलेटर बा नियामक बा फाइनेंशियल कंट्रोलर नियंत्रक एवं फाइनेंशियल सुपरवाइजर पर्यवेक्षक हिसाब रे एमानकर दायित्व एवं भूमिका अति गुरुत्वपूर्ण। यही परिप्रेक्षी रे आजिर वेबिनार विषय भारतीय वित्तीय क्षेत्र स्थिति और भविष्य अति उपयोगी विषय एवं आम निज संजोग परिवार भाई अति प्रिय भाई डॉक्टर रविनारायण मिश्र आजिर प्रवक्ता हिसाब रे आम समस्त ज्ञान परिसर को वर्धित करने आगे आसचंती। आम रवि बाबू डॉक्टर रवि मिश्र जड़े बहुमुखी प्रतिभाशाली व्यक्ति तांकर भाषा रे से निजको जमी कहती अति विथ ऑल ह्यूमिलिटी शिक्षा रे से जड़े वित्तीय अर्थनीतिज्ञ फाइनेंशियल इकोनॉमिस्ट पेशा रे से जड़े वित्तीय क्षेत्र विशेषज्ञ फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर स्पेशलिस्ट एवं शौकरे बा हॉबी रे से जड़े जीवन प्रशिक्षक बा लाइफ कोच। रवि बाबू दिल्ली जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी रु एमए पास करथांती एवं दिल्ली स्कूल ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स जो प्रतिष्ठित अनुष्ठान अछि सेथुरु से रिसर्च स्कॉलर थिले। मुंबई यूनिवर्सिटी रु से पीएचडी करचंती एवं अमेरिका रो प्रतिष्ठित हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी से पोस्ट डॉक्टरेट हासिल करचंती। रवि बाबू जने अति उच्च कोटीर ज्ञानी व्यक्ति देशर फाइनेंशियल रेगुलेटर और सुपरवाइजर रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया रो प्राय से दीर्घ 35 वर्ष अभिज्ञता हासिल करचंती एवं रिजर्व बैंक रो फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर महल रे जने अति दक्ष अभिज्ञ एवं क्रिएटिव जागु कौन स्ट्रैटेजिस्ट बा ओडिया रे कहले कौन हम मु एक्जेक्टली जानि पाउनी सृजनशील रणनीतिज्ञ माने वार स्ट्रैटेजिस्ट टाइप रो से हिसाब रे से परिचित। आरबीआई रो फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी डिपार्टमेंट रो से स्थापक कहले अनुचित हबर नहीं एवं इंडिया ओमान ये दीटी राष्ट्र रे से फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी मैक्रो फाइनेंशियल सर्वेलेंस फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस मैनेजमेंट रिस्क मॉनिटरिंग इन बैंकिंग एंड सेंट्रल बैंक स्पेसेस ये सबूर मेन आर्किटेक्ट से अटंती। रवि बाबू वर्तमान से प्रकृत में रिजर्व बैंक डेप्यूटी गवर्नर पाई पूरा पूरी योग्य थिले किंतु जेमती किछि 19-20 हो जाए से अनुसार रिटायरमेंट समय आसीगला किंतु क्वालिटी एफिशिएंसी ये सब देखिकी रवि बाबू वर्तमान रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया रो एक गुरुत्वपूर्ण अंग जोटा कॉलेज ऑफ सुपरवाइजर रो फुल टाइम डायरेक्टर हिसाब रे ताकू सरकार रखिछंती। गत 2-3 दशंधि धरी अनेक विश्वस्तरीय फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस आम देश रे तथा विश्वस्तरीय भाव में हो जाइए स्पेशली आम देश रे अनेक बैंकिंग फाइनेंशियल फ्रॉड्स इन्वॉल्विंग वेरी लार्ज कॉर्पोरेट्स एंड लार्ज बैंक्स घटी जाइए। आपण माने जानिथिबे सब नीरव मोदी कांड जो स्कैम हैला बा विभिन्न प्रकार रो आईएलएफएस स्कैम यस बैंक स्कैम ए सब जिनस जो होईची ए विभिन्न प्रकार रो फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस बा स्कैम्स होईची ए प्रकार रो छोटो बड़ विभिन्न फाइनेंशियल भूमिकंप जो आसे ताकू अवॉइड करवा प्रति देश पई दरकार एवं आम पई भी दरकार। आगामी दिन में डिजिटल फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम्स एवं आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस रो विभिन्न प्रकार रो इंपोर्टेंस बढ़ी बढ़ी जाउची जेतिकी भल तार देर अच्छी सेतिकी फाइनेंशियल फ्रॉड हबार भयंकर आशंका भी अच्छी। डॉक्टर मिश्रंकर नॉलेज एक्सपीरियंस एक्सपोजर कैपेबिलिटी ये सबू को देखी सरकार बा रिजर्व बैंक तांको ए जो डायरेक्टर पोस्ट रे सम्मानित करचंती। आजिकार गुरुत्वपूर्ण जो विषय अच्छी से ज्ञानालोकपात करने रवि बाबू ठारू उपयोगी एवं सुयोग्य व्यक्ति मिलवा कष्ट। तांकर वक्तव्य शुणी आम समस्त ज्ञान परिसर जे प्रशस्त हम एथिरे कौन संदेह नहीं। आसतु आम समस्ते रवि बाबू ठारू शुणा ता पूर्व जस्ट गोटे धाड़ी कह जो आमर रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस अच्छी समस्ते दयाक निजर वीडियो एवं ऑडियो गुड़ा को नॉर्मली बंद कर रखिए स्पेशली ऑडियो को सो दैट रवि बाबू कथा गुड़ा समस्ते शुणी पारे एवं कहीं डिस्टर्ब हेबे नहीं एवं जार किछि कहिबार थिबो प्रश्न थिबो सेति पई प्रश्न क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन अछि सेति पई नोट करी रखिथिबे सेतिरे तांकु सेही समय रे प्रचार ये कर देबे आपण समस्त आसंतु रवि बाबू शुनिबा रवि बाबू नाउ द स्टेज इज टोटली योर्स प्लीज कम
नमस्कार नमस्कार गला थर जेतु भूल मो तरफ होइथिला एथर भाबिली जे 3 घंटा आगु आसी रेडी थी so that there is no mistake anyway समय कम तेणु सीधा आरंभ कर भारत वित्तीय क्षेत्र जिस फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम गोटे अलग उपाय कहबी तापर एंड करी जे कौन बर्तन करा जाउची काहेकि करा जाउची एंड काहेकि भारतर नागरिक माने बा विश्वर नागरिक माने अभी शांति रे सोई परिबे जो प्रताप बाबू कहले युद्ध टू अधिका फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर रे अस्थिरता आहुरी डेंजरस तेणु आम सब सिटीजन माने सिकट जमी सैनिक माने ताकू जगिकी रही आम सब वित्तीय स्थिरता को भी जगिकी रही तेणु आप गोटे कॉन्फिडेंस दवा लगी कौन अच्छी कौन हबार अच्छी जानिया दरकार सोशल मीडिया रे बहुत प्रकार रॉन्ग नोशंस इल कनसीव्ड आइडियाज सर्कुलेट होची बहुत लोग से व्यस्त से रहउछन्ते तेणु सेटा को एम्फासिस करके कह फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम is divided into 4 parts macro economy एवडा मो ओडिया रे डिफाइन करियो नै जे असुविधा बुझिबरे फाइनेंशियल इज macro economy financial institutions financial markets and financial infrastructure स्पेशल इथर जो ऐड कराई छी मैक्रो इकोनॉमी काहे की ऐड करछि ता एक्सप्लेन करियो एंड रे इंस्टीट्यूशंस अपन जानि जंती बैंक इंश्योरेंस नॉन बैंकिंग फाइनेंशियल कंपनीज अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स एंड ऑल दीज म्यूचुअल फंड्स एंड सो ऑन मार्केट्स माने फॉरेक्स मार्केट सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट कॉर्पोरेट बॉन्ड मार्केट मार्केट्स थर्ड है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में पेमेंट्स एंड सेटलमेंट सिस्टम्स डिपॉजिट इंश्योरेंस सिस्टम सेगुड़ा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कौन सी गोटे संस्था चलो नहीं बिना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर तेणु इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इज आल्सो देयर सो ऑल दीज 4 इन ए कंबाइंड मैनर इज डिफाइंड एज ए फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम एंड मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक कहीं से जोड़ा गला कारण लास्ट ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस रु जो गोटे मेजर लेसन है everything is interconnected among these 4 just cannot handle instability or stability in one sector and forget about it पर्यंत भी होल वर्ल्ड रे कोन होजी सेंट्रल बैंक सुपरवाइजर जा होंतु से माने इंस्टीट्यूशन रो हेल्थ चेक कर जंदी तो 50 टा इंस्टीट्यूशन individual each institution is healthy so assumption is the financial system is healthy so this is absolutely erroneous because of interconnectedness and system impacting individual institutions infrastructure impacting individual institutions for example simple example यदि इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ जीडीपी ग्रोथ यदि फॉल करियो जो प्रोड्यूसर माने जो मान का प्रोडक्शन जो जीडीपी बढ़ुची so they will have lesser incentive to produce so that their earnings will fall so banks will have problems of repayments by them so it will rise vice versa institutions NPA rising the ability of the producers to produce will get reduced and growth will get affected adversely. So they are all interconnected. See, आम फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम रु मैक्रो इकोनॉमी को अलग करी कौन समाधान करबा जदि आशा करबा सेटा फेल मारिबो देखिया पड़िबो ये फर्स्ट पॉइंट सेकंड पॉइंट है स्थिति so what is the condition so three types of sthiti condition one is distress instability and crisis and literature loosely you word use करे crisis but really it should be in three stages distress instability and crisis distress like 99 शीत दिन आसला सर्दी खासी 99 डिग्री रहला we take a paracetamol and forget about it so that is a state of distress in financial system instability or crisis are really important to handle so every citizen the financial system re instability na asu forget about crisis कारण तार कारण मैले आपको एक्सप्लेन करूँ काहे कि we are worried and what is this instability so instability comes from stability of financial stability system stability का किसी definition नहीं literature absence of instability is called stability like absence of day means night so we'll have to define what is instability stability I am giving ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଗୋଟେ ଅଲଗା definition ଦଉଛି ସେଇଥିରେ everything we can discuss all that your questions ତିନିଟା major rates so they are essentially responsible for instability in financial system three essential rates they are called three sensitive rates rate one obviously is inflation rate right exchange rate ଯାହା ବିଷୟରେ ଗଲା ଥର ଆମର ଡକ୍ଟର ଯୋଉ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ମତେ ପଚାରିଥିଲେ ସେଇଟା ଥର ଆଡ୍ରେସ୍ କରାଯାଇଥିଲା and third ହେଲା interest rate ଏଇ ତିନିଟା ରେଟ୍ ରେ volatility beyond a point wherever it is there in the four sectors there will be stability created ଆପଣ ଅନୁମାନ କରନ୍ତୁ ଏଇ ରେଟ୍ ଯଦି କୌଣସି ପ୍ରକାର ଥିଲା जो चारोटी जाक पार्ट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम कौनसी अस्थिरता आसीब ही गोटे जगह आसिले माने दे बिकॉज दे आर इंटरकनेक्टेड सारा फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम विल बी इन स्टेट ऑफ इंस्टेबिलिटी द ग्रेटेस्ट डेंजर फॉर द सोसाइटी अभी वी विल डिस्कस ईच ऑफ दीज रेट्स वोलेटिलिटी मीन को पॉइंट पर हमें वरीड होगा था लाइक distress at 99 degree centigrade temperature similarly so first is inflation rate that is right inflation rate apan already janichindi reserve india does it beyond a point like price price has to rise social media discussion कौन सी महंगाई बढ़ गया बट assume करूँ कि price will not rise at all US रे थिला for 20-30 years there will be no incentive for the producer to produce like onion कौन हो चले yes बर्तमान नासिक रे the return is even less than cost of production right? Unless it rises and over cost of production of that particular product no producer will get incentivized to produce so then what will happen if he stops production or production quantity is less then it will further rise supply and demand issue will create okay so ये अर्थ कौन हला if supply is much more or demand is much more both way instability will be created ये अर्थ कौन हला that means there is a critical limit ताटू अधिक गले खेती जाटू गले खेती and inflation rate lagi sei rate hala Indian economy is right plus 2% 6% but 6 cross kala mane it will affect economic growth means cost of production everything will rise raw material cost everything so producers will not be able to produce production side goes consumer side will go to explain better similar 2% तळକୁ ଆସିଲେ there will be no incentive for producers to produce because they will not have any profit any gain by doing that products so that means 2 ରୁ 6 ଭିତରେ inflation rate ଯଦି ରହିଲା ତାହେଲେ instability is maintained that is one job of the financial system supervisor which is essentially Reserve Bank of India in India. Why? How? All financial institutions, mostly 75 to 80% are regulated, supervised by RBI. Financial market also 75% regulated, supervised by RBI. Financial infrastructure 100% by Reserve Bank of India. Economic stability together, government and Reserve Bank. It's about the supervision of Indian system is predominantly managed by its central bank, that is RBI. So the huge responsibility of managing instability in financial system is vested with RBI. Okay, this is the first rate, inflation rate, which is done by Reserve Bank of India. Second is exchange rate. Reserve Bank is also the custodian of foreign exchange in this country. Exchange rate also. So what is exchange rate? Demand and supply of foreign at a particular point of time. Vis-a-vis, because dollar is the acquired reference currency. And we have to compare. Then only we will know it is higher or lower. Or else how will you absolute number? How will you do? So dollar के साथी रे रुपये command, रुपये ability to command goods and production. Exchange rate type हो जाए. City again, as I told you, extreme volatility or instability to be managed. Nothing else. So here again, if exchange rate is extremely either in volatile means in volatile suppose rupee dollar is 80 rupees a dollar agar ये continuously बहुत दिन रहला भी so it will remain at 80 no bigger issue no instability but changes very frequently 78 then 79 then 80 82 83 84 that is the problem because that create a state of difficulty for producers, consumers, and all stakeholders of the economy. Predict what will be the supply and demand for exchange or at a particular point of time. So forecasting ability of foreign exchange. So that is why the customary reserve and RBI what does it does it they will not decide. Please mute रखंतु mute अरे mute करंतु आपनका
नहीं जम्मा रुटिया
अरे mute रखंतु
मोटा चकटी से
देखंतु सुगंध बाबू देखली का की कथा होची
आगे बहुत डिस्टर्ब होची
की जने कथा होची तांको देखुना तांको ऊपर उटा आसीओ रेड लाइट मार्क आसीओ वी कैन आइडेंटिफाई
एटा बडे बहुत भलो सब्जेक्ट बहुत
अजय कुमार पात्र भाई टिके आपण म्यूट करंदु
अजय
पात्र भाई कडवार जगत कडवार भाई तापरे
now it is silent okay
हां सेठी
So ठीक है.
से ଦି ଜଣଙ୍କର ଟିକେ ଦୟା କରିକି ଆପଣ म्यूट କରନ୍ତୁ ନିଜକୁ.
So in foreign exchange rate, the central bank, by Reserve Bank of India, doesn't target any rate. Like, and why a central bank should be worried? Because foreign exchange, as I had told last time, in the supply of foreign exchange need quota say exporter. Exporter देशर product produce बिकिकिरी foreign exchange आनी, goods बाहर किनिकिरी foreign exchange pay करी. दीटा जगह important for the country. The notion should not be that import should be considerably reduced so that there will be no deficit. Is wrong, because in a developing country like India, growth requires different factors of production. हमको raw material and everything बाहर भी आनी पड़ेगा. Because no economy can be self-sufficient in all that is required inside that economy. So there is a concept called comparative advantage. जो जिनिसटा आम देश रे सस्ता रे प्रोड्यूस हे परियो अच्छा क्वालिटी, that only we should produce. If anything can be produced at a cheaper rate elsewhere, and after import cost is added, we can get it at lesser price than what we otherwise would have produced. That should be imported only. So there is no point in jabardasti using it in the production, then your cost of production will rise. So both are important. Point I'm making is, so both are important. Both are encouraging producers to produce, consumers to demand. So both are important. But what is most important is that threshold. As I am repeatedly saying, threshold. When I am younger, the threshold was not emphasized. At that time, anecdotally, अनुमान करके कहला जे मैं एटा बढ़ले सेटा बढ़ियो सेटा बढ़ले सेटा बढ़ियो बढ़िवा कमिवार किछि इश्यू नय. प्रॉब्लम होछि केते बढ़िले प्रॉब्लम हो, केते कमिले प्रॉब्लम हो. एवरीथिंग इन लाइफ आल्सो इज लाइक दैट. दुख आसियो, केते अधिक दुख आसिले मनुष्य मर्माहत हेजियो. खुशी आसियो, केते अधिक खुशी आसिले मनुष्य आरोगेंट हेजियो. See, it was important. A sthita pragya has to manage that. So a central bank or a central bank officer or a supervisor and a regulator has to be by definition a sthita pragya. Sthita pragya means he who unduly doesn't get excited with success nor gets depressed with failure. So that is the state of affairs. In all these volatilities of rates, that should be the style of policy. And third is interest rate. Interest rate, again, all these are double-edged swords. Both sides problem. That is why threshold is important. Same in interest rate. If interest rate is rising, so depositors are happy. So more deposits, more resources. More resources at the banks, without having avenues to book them in narrative assets, will increase their cost of funds. Spread will get reduced. Other side, if it is fallen, borrowers will gain, means producers will gain. So eventually, produce, their cost of capital will fall, so their production cost will fall, so prices should fall. So to the extent savers lose in terms of their interest income, they should get compensated. But it is not like arithmetic 2 plus 2 is 4. Certain times it happens like that, certain times it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, then it pinches the citizens. Their purchasing power, their capacity to come for their livelihood will fall. Then what should be a threshold here again? अपन इमेजिन करନ୍ତୁ 15-20 वर्ष तळे जेते प्रताप बाबू हेरिका बैंक रे थिले आमे सब इंस्पेक्शन करथिलु. What was the average interest rate like? 14-15%. And 14-15% cost of capital from borrowings from the bank. अगर एक जण प्रोड्यूसर नबो लोन 15% रे, ताकू कम से कम गोटे जगह यूज करे पड़िबो जोटे 20% रिटर्न. So in India there is no avenue where 20% return is available. Luckily, because of cost of labor, and land. Abhi to land adhika hai galani. Two factor of production were less, so they are able to manage. But now, if you see the average last 5-10 years, it is around 10 only. 4 to 5% fall in borrowing cost. But at the same time, depositor side also falls, so that spread remains same. So middle class, retired people, Sanjog members, it's at the maximum. So that is why we feel in that view, because not only that we lose in terms of our interest income, which is a major stable source of income, we also don't get adequately compensated in the fall in prices of the goods we usually consume. That if both matches, then we have no issue, we are happy. It doesn't happen like that at this particular juncture because of growth rate falling, going to negative due to COVID, plus there is of doom all over, both like at consumers end, producers end, all over the world. So interconnectedness has magnified this gloom to persist all over the world. But we have to compare relatively. Relatively can compare करें जो US रे inflation rate was not more than 1% for last 20 years. So now it is 8%. So the deviation from our historical rate last 10 years is 7%, 8 minus 1. In India, our inflation rate for last 10 years, 7-8 years, were around 8, average 7-8%, 4-5%, and now we are at 7-8%. So the deviation is 4%. So deviation in rates of inflation vis-a-vis historical rate for 10 years is 4 in India, 8 for developed countries. So who has performed better? So that should be the question to be answered, not seeing it is 7 or 8%. But in any way, remarkably enough, despite all these problems, so our threshold of 6% say breach हुआ है not more than 1.5 to 2% ever, despite COVID. So this is a historically remarkable performance in the history of the economics, where minus rate of growth through, minus means we are getting back what we used to have 3-4 years. Despite that, so we are at a reasonably decent growth rate and without quite adversely not affecting inflation rate. So this is the issue of interest rate. मुझे कहली जदि धर आरबीआई आगु कौन थिला एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इंटरेस्ट रेट सो पेंशनर एमान को देखि आरबीआई जबरदस्ती कर दोथला जे कम कर दे कि असुविधा नहीं सेतरे कोन हो यू आर helping somebody but again killing the other way. So the pensioners and one class of citizens will get benefit, but bank spread will rise. They will give loans at a higher rate. So everything else will rise. And banks may fail as well. And because of these, if they have problems, then if they fail, many times they fail, then we depositors will only suffer. So any discussion should not be on a as-on basis, like today, tomorrow, or yesterday. It should be over minimum 10 years. 10 years average sangare, what is the rate now? Whether it is more or less, and that again should be vis-a-vis a well-established research, well-researched threshold, like 6% for inflation. The exchange rate is a problem because it is externally related. अगर US dollar स्थिति अनुसार आमटा बढ़ जाउची कमी जाउची because it is compared vis-a-vis US dollar. So if US dollar improves, automatically we get fall. So this need not necessarily be a reflection on the performance of Indian economy. But why? But you will be also surprised to know, till now there is scope for rupee also to little appreciate. Agar if it is allowed to little appreciate by Reserve Bank, importers will lose. If it is allowed to depreciate, exporters will gain. So either way, somebody will gain or lose. Ultimately, it is a zero-sum game. So how sensitive, how difficult, how critical is to manage instability in these three exchange rates, which will ensure stability of the financial system. It is very tricky. Either way, this or that. A trade-off between something very good or bad all the time in all variables. So it is not so easy as I find comments in the social media appears. So now I will tell about Bhabisyata. ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଭାରତୀୟର ବିତ୍ତୀୟ ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ସିଷ୍ଟମ କଣ, ସେଥିରେ ଅସ୍ଥିରତା କଣ ପାଇଁ ଆସେ, and ଭବିଷ୍ୟତର ଯୋଉ ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ of maintaining instability କଣ, ଭବିଷ୍ୟତ ସ୍ଥିରତା should be maintained. So Tirita should be maintained means a new word has been created, resilience. Not financial stability, but resilience. Financial resilience. That means each of these parts of the financial system will create its own potential for immunity so that future distress can be avoided, instability. Like COVID, the Prime Minister said, Kada piyo, pranayam karo, so that as it is, you will not catch and cold. So that is why the latest responsibility of supervision and regulation by Reserve Bank of India is to guide financial institutions, market and all, to learn how to boost self-resilience so that crisis can never happen, instability can be managed, and we should be able to smell a problem at the distress stage and nip it in the bud. Means sardi khasi level आगे को दबा दिया जीवन. So that, and secondly, now we are on whole world, not we are the pioneer in this post-mortem surveillance. Only after an institution fails or only after some problem arises in the financial system, supervisor and regulator jump in to do something. But this is not serving any purpose. It has been realized. We should be able to identify vulnerabilities in various parts of the system which have potentials to snowball into either a state of instability or directly through a crisis. But how do we smell a distress in advance is now the current narrative. So apan carefully paduthuve RBI governor speech, so we have made it very clear, smelling distress in advance is the current narrative, and that is why a college of supervisor was created by Reserve Bank of India. How we should use current techniques and tools to smell distress in advance so that there is no problem in the financial system. But how? Why was the solution? Like police reaches after the thief goes, doctor reaches after the patient is dead, and some people say supervisors jump into work activity after the financial institution is in trouble. So this narrative must change. And because there are no techniques and tools to know, to measure this kind of distress, and more so to arrive at a threshold. Like monetary policy, we have arrived at that. But all other things, we still are waiting for a threshold. Like good example, foreign exchange reserves. We had less than 1 billion. Now we have 600 billion. Still we are not sure whether it is adequate. Because with the dynamics in the financial system changing, the precautionary requirements also have tremendously risen. So RBI is a profit, explain. So many people say for 600 billion, so why RBI is not using for bridges, roads, bridges straight away? It is a precautionary reserve subject to, again, market fluctuations, like stock market fluctuation. Adani was number 1, now became more than 25th, just by the speculation in the market. What is speculation in the market? The perceptions of the citizen about the state of affairs to come. Like all Indian citizens' perceptions about the stability of financial system determines many things. All these rates to remain stable. There is a big variable. Because supply and demand being involved, perception also impact. Because who supplies? Who demands those supplies? We only again. So our perception is very important about what is going to happen. So in India, since the Reserve Bank of India is a full service central bank organization, other than creating fiscal deficit, everything else is looked after by Reserve Bank of India, including customer service, rural development, women empowerment, and whatnot. So the citizens' expectation from the efficiency of the Reserve Bank policies has a tremendous impact as a variable on the stability of these rates, so the financial system. So what I am going to tell you is, you should be rest assured as under the Reserve Bank is considerably successful in keeping these in control for the future, so that we all can sleep in peace without being bothered about possible instability. Point number 1, as I told you, in exchange rate size, we have enough. Because suppose had that been in 100 billion, you know, in one operation, $80 jibalagi 100 billion RBI had to push to the market. Had we have 100 billion, we would have reached Pakistan stage, less than 1 billion. So we have sufficient wherewithal there. Under no circumstances, foreign exchange rate will be allowed to be volatile to a considerable extent, so that exporters can export Indian goods at a good price, importers can import raw materials and all which will be used for the production at a good price, so that cost of production will remain stable, so that growth will keep on rising. Exchange rate, inflation rate, I have told you. Third is interest rate. I told you why it is difficult, but at the same time, you would have seen in a situation in COVID, interest rates, institutions are in a state of terrible position. Most of the countries except India. In 2 years, all the financial institutions, including NBFCs in India, are hale and hearty. Their NPA positions have considerably fallen. All banks are in net profit. Insurance sector and everywhere, there is no question of instability. Forget about crisis. After ILFS, Honorable Finance Minister, I think 2000 COVID, she had announced, I had a serious discussion with the Reserve Bank of India, and I assure the House, there will be no major failure in Indian financial system anymore. And it has not happened, despite COVID. Because of many new things, tools and techniques have been done. Because of artificial intelligence, machine learning. A big, huge database on every variable, on every part of the system, one can analyze and see. A simple example, like simple example, and it applies to everything. That is point number 1. What is being done, what we have achieved, so why you should be happy. The future is in safe hands, and we are first. We have been able to measure interconnectedness. meaning they are by suppose bank X sangre bank NBFC kete interconnected and kete interconnected adhika hele it will have problem and kam hele it will have problem as we have been able to do thanks to AIML. So how does it help? Suppose NBFC X is interconnected with bank Y. So NBFC X रे यदि किसी असुविधा हवार संभावना हैला कि जानियो RBI जानियो supervisor we will know at supervision department we will immediately not only intervene with that NBFC we will also alert those banks who are connected to it well in advance. So it is a huge solution. आरटा जो मैं कहतली धरंतु 50 वर्षर इतिहास गोटे बैंक स्टडी कर मैं एग्जांपल सबआड सेट रहबो इट इज ए ह्यूज लिटरेचर so that is what the research and supervision we have succeeded. Now we are teaching to supervisors and financial sector surveillance in charges how we should do it and spread this message all across so that we all remain in peace. For example 50 वर्षर इतिहास देखंतु बैंक X देखो बैंक X सपोज पंजाब नेशनल बैंक हम आचार्य थे पंजाब नेशनल बैंक सो पंजाब नेशनल बैंक 50 वर्ष इतिहास रे हम आइडेंटिफाई करिया जे 10टा जगह रे देयर वाज पॉइंट्स ऑफ डिस्ट्रेस. व्हाट इज पॉइंट्स ऑफ डिस्ट्रेस इन ए बैंक? सो आइदर नॉन परफॉर्मिंग पर्सन विल राइज so that potential for earning will continue to fall or net profit is much less for some reason or there is a fraud like Nirav Modi 13,000 crore loss. I was their director in that time when 13,000 crore went off. So all these. So you identify suppose 10 distress point in 50 years history of Punjab National Bank. So that point, देखो तो को variable को region नु से distress टा आस्थिला 50 वर्ष तले and सेई जो variable जो आस्थिला सेटा बड़ी थिला कि कमी थिला जो थी जो को problem आस्थिला. Similarly आसंतु 49th point, similarly आसंतु 48th point and analyze the movement of each of the variables which contributed either to the upswing or the downswing of that variable manifesting in a instability or crisis in that particular institution. Suppose we know, suppose assuming, so these variables and their directions are same in all the 50 episodes of crisis in Punjab National Bank. So you can arrive at a conclusion that these are the items, early warning indicators we have to work on. Means ये जो variable माने हमको idea दे परिवे जे इथरे दी किसी movement हला either ऊपर और तळ if we take care of that well in advance means 18 months to 2 years ago एटा जाना पड़ जियो. It has a time lag. If we know we can cure it exactly like diseases. If we know in advance some serious disease I am going to get, so I can prepare myself. So problem was not RBI or police reaching after this happened. They should be able to smell distress in advance was the problem, which was never a solution so far. And for the first time, we are going ahead of, towards that. So that is what is saving banks to fail. And we try to alert the banks. That is one. I told you interconnect. Second, identifying vulnerable institutions and borrowers. In the total history of Indian financial system, suppose 10 banks were in trouble. So we identify for why. If variables move in the same direction, so in future, whenever they, and you are observing on your desktop, so now they are heading towards the same negative trend, which had allowed them to fall into a crisis, then you can alert them by calling them to Reserve Bank. So these are the things, this is why this thing. So one is top down. That is RBI supervisor regulator doing it for each bank and the whole the system. Similarly, ILDI for insurance. The other more important thing is the patient. My family doctor knowing about my health condition and predicting when I will fall sick and alerting me is less important than I myself understanding my health and remaining alert that I don't fall sick. So that is why all financial institutions, markets, and infrastructure are being guided. How? They should also be able to measure their interconnectedness among each other. They should also be able to know, to identify vulnerabilities in their own businesses as well as borrowers. And you will be glad to learn we are the first in the world sitting at RBI to identify vulnerable borrowers in the system. We don't give loans. We are able to know which borrower in which bank might create problem after 2 years. So that bank is called and alerted. That NBFC is called and alerted. So now College of Supervisors is trying to inculcate this sense of knowledge into financial institutions, markets, and all through, so that they boost their self-resilience in a bottoms-up manner. And supervisor and regulator RBI does the smelling in distress model from a top-down manner. So when both of them the results merge, numbers will not match. Why? Because each institution is different. Like each body is different. 250 paracetamol can cure my temperature. It may require 650 dolo, suppose for Pratap Babu. So it is different. So RBI as a supervisor cannot decide what are the possible assumptions and scenarios for each institution. Their borrower profile, depositor profile will decide that. So once what we do for system, they should do for their own institution. But ultimately the direction should be same. If direction is same, meaning thereby there is no brewing risks, no potential risks, no known unknown risk, no unknown risk, which is not in the knowledge of either the institution, market, and infrastructure, as also the supervisory regulator, then we can conclude safely the future is safe. So I can only give my fellow members here the confidence. Not only that, financial system in India is very, very robust, one of the best in the world. We are pioneers in many areas in financial system. I have no time to tell here, many areas. We are the pioneer. And College of Supervisor also teaches other countries' supervisor regulators to learn this thing so that their countries also remain safe in financial system wise. Why it is done? Let us guess. Because as I told you, interconnectedness in 3 ways. One is institutions to markets, inside institution, bank to NBFCs and insurance. Infrastructure is obviously connected. Without infrastructure, everything else will be affected. And our countries with which we have tremendous trading relationship, where we have our bank branches there, they have their bank branches here, which is called supervisory colleges. We have established, we have a relationship with them, so that because their economic condition will affect my branch there, like PNB London will be adversely affected by economic conditions in UK, and if PNB London is adversely affected, their global balance sheet in India, PNB will also get affected. So that is why we also need to bring on par the expertise, tools, and techniques across supervisors and regulators, where at least, if not whole world, we have a relationship. So here I conclude with the following conclusions. Bharatara Bittiya Khetrara Samruddha এবং সুদৃঢ় তার হচ্ছে স্থিতি তার ভবিষ্যৎ বহুত উজ্জ্বল কারণ we may be the first country to smell distress in advance, and once we are capable of smelling distress in advance, we will not allow anything to go beyond the state of instability, and crisis should be a word which should get erased from the vocabulary. You should not allow crisis to happen. Thank you very much. Namaskar. I wanted to conclude here so that you can ask me questions. Questions, please. Any clarification questions?
ଆଜ୍ଞା ନମସ୍କାର। ଆଉ ଯାହା ଆମର ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଧାରଣା ଆରବିଆଇ ର ରୋଲ ବିଷୟରେ ଏତେ ଧାରଣା ନଥିଲା। ଆଉ ଆମର ବିତ୍ତୀୟ କ୍ଷେତ୍ର ଆଉ ଆରବିଆଇ ରୋଲ ବିଷୟରେ ଆମର ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଡାଉଟ୍ ବି ଆପଣ କ୍ଲାରିଫାଇ କରିଦେଲେ, ଆମକୁ ଗୋଟେ ଧାରଣା ଦେଲେ। କେତେ ଗୁଡେ ସାଧାରଣ ଟର୍ମ ଆମେ ଡେ ଟୁ ଡେ ଆମେ वी आर कमिंग अक्रॉस लाइक रेपो रेट, रिवर्स रेपो रेट, एगुडा कोन टिके सूचना देबे की?
Yes, yes. सेटा इंटरेस्ट रेट से रिलेटेड जो मनी पॉलिसी जो करा जाए सो तार वेरिएबल है शॉर्ट टर्म इंटरेस्ट रेट्स. ओके, the banks, the lender of the, suppose banks supply of what is interest rate, supply and demand for funds at that point of time in one bank in the whole system. So supply of fund comes from depositors. Okay, demand is by asset side loans and investments. But over theoretically it appears both should match, or at least assets should be more than liabilities, so that it is not in a state of bankruptcy. Seta kohanti illiquid, liquidity crisis. So but liquidity at any point of time is to be managed. So at no point of time you will remain illiquid, or at least at the end of the day. So to maintain liquidity, suppose you have a bank at the end of the day, suppose it is negative. So first it will go to other banks. Another bank would be surplus maybe. Okay, suppose I need 1,000 crores at the end to make my payments. Bank need khali deposit asibani. Many loans I have committed. So many importers, they also want money. So all these are required. So at the end of the day, I see that I am 1,000 crore deficit. So could find me now. मुझे 1,000 crore deficit. So I have to first go cheaper sources first. So interbank money market rate, there are hundreds of institutions playing. Some are in deficit, some are in surplus. So I will look around who can loan me 1,000 crores, or which 5 banks can loan me 1,000 at that point of time at a viable rate. If I get, it's okay. If I don't get, lines of credit. So before, each bank has a lines of credit system with the other bank. Okay, so first they will avail it, and line of credit again subject to availability of money at that bank. Suppose all these sources become unviable or unavailable, the type of gote paisa nathibo but thibo at a rate which if I take, then my cost will rise very much. Then last resort is Reserve Bank of India. Okay, so they can borrow from Reserve Bank of India. Seita kohanti reverse a repo rate. And jetebele sara system re more surplus hegala and nobody is ready to buy at a cost acceptable to me, so I will sell it to Reserve Bank of India. Okay, so that means, what does it mean? So this is a instrument of monetary policy through which illiquidity in the financial institution is not allowed to happen. When I was in 30s, ଆପଣ ବି ଶୁଣିଥିବେ ଗୋଟେ ରିୟୁମର ହେଇଗଲା ଯେ ICICI ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ଗୋଟେ ବ୍ରାଞ୍ଚରେ ସେମାନେ କ୍ୟାଶ ଦେଇ ପାଇଲେନି, ତେଣୁ ତାଙ୍କ ଅପୋଜିସନ ରାଇଭାଲ୍ସ ପ୍ରଚାର କରିଦେଲେ ICICI ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ is not able to meet cash demand. Speculatively all over the country ଲୋକ କାଉଣ୍ଟର ଲଗେଇଦେଲେ, depositors ଯଦି କ୍ୟାଶ ଦେଇପାରୁନି ଡୁବିଯିବେ କଣ, ଆଉ they wanted to withdraw. That is called run on the bank. So immediately kona around 5 PM RBI come on this statement. We are there. There is no issues. We have opened our treasury to ICICI Bank for any cash requirements. So don't aggravate it by demanding your withdrawal. So in one day that run was termed. So that also is a job done by Reserve Bank of India through these rates. So the rate at which banks borrow from Reserve Bank is repo rate, short term. The rate at which they deposit their loans with RBI is reverse repo rate. And that decides the ideal interest rate through which the economy should be managed. Inflation can be managed, exchange rate can be managed, which I told you, that is how extreme volatilities are controlled in these 3 sensitive rates so that financial system remains stable. And if there is an elaborate system to do it in futuristic basis, then future is also safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
प्रताप भाई चाट बॉक्स रे गोटे क्वेश्चन अछि आपण
अच्छी
सेटा को सेटा पढ़ि दियंतु
दोन मिनिट पढ़ दिए कौन लिखे
ଆଜ୍ଞା
बहुत सुंदर এটা তো সেকেন্ড হলো what steps RBI can take to control exchange rate in long run as I told you a definite exchange rate what is good or bad you cannot tell it depends on the supply and demand for exchange rate at particular point of time suppose for dollars pounds which again depends on the demand for that particular foreign exchange at that point of time and the supply available with our financial institutions. Okay, so that being the case, suppose we want to grow, our potential rate of growth is suppose 10%. So that means we have to produce a lot more things in many things. At this juncture, import, this government, I am not praising or supporting, please don't misunderstand. RBI is always apolitical. I'm giving the example. And all these policies by the government are to some extent facilitated, influenced by Reserve Bank policy as well, as you know. What is being now done? Upon future coil long run Jadi we become self-sufficient in many raw materials which are usually required for production in our country for improvement of our growth, then our demand for foreign exchange to be paid to importers in other countries like China will get reduced. So semiconductor by our Vaishnavji, Ashwin Vaishnav, my good friend, is not only because we cannot do it because we are intellectually very sound in digital world, but our raw material, the chips and all, whatever the semiconductors, we don't have, we hugely import them. And import means we pay for an exchange. So suppose we do in a manner, our 10 years demand for semiconductors and chip in sync with the ability of our humans, Indian brains for digitalization matches in next 3 years. To that extent, foreign exchange demand will get reduced. So to that extent, exchange rate will remain stable. I give you one example. This is the only way it can be done. No other way. And in any case, for resilience for future, foreign exchange reserves at the command of the Reserve Bank of India is important. We have enough. Anyway, what is adequate foreign exchange, as I told you, cannot be one figure. It will change in response to your aim for GDP growth rate and all. But at this point of time, second, one is imports. Pratap Mishra. So one reason is import demand. Another future ke liye, we have also borrowed from other countries, or we have post payments. So the rate of interest and how much we use our foreign exchange to pay for our loans and borrowings. What is its share in the total foreign exchange demand? That also is important. And you will be glad to learn, so we don't have much in this, which is called original sin. Original sin means you borrow in foreign exchange massively. We have borrowed massively only in government securities inside India. Our best feature in this country. So that is why that demand is also under control. Means our foreign exchange reserves at the command of the central bank of the country, that is the Bank of India, should be adequate enough to meet future demand for imports for growth, to pay our debt repayments. If we start working the way I told you in production side, and original sin, as I told you, our borrowing in foreign exchange as it is characteristically less because of Indian culture. Indian culture is हम लोग saving से खाते हैं, borrow करके नहीं. वो American culture, Western countries is like that. So by nature we save fast. So that culture also helps. हम लोग borrow करके कोई foreign good खरीदेगा नहीं. Indian का mentality से. So that also is a factor. Second, only these raw material, जो Ashwin Vaishnav and company are trying to do. If we get that, our import demand is less, and with this amount of consciousness of custody of foreign exchange reserve, our exchange rate also will remain stable in the long run. Pratap Babu, are you happy with the answer or anything else? Pratap Babu. Pratap Babu पचार
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଗୋଟେ actually ଆମ ପାଖରେ ସମୟ ତ ବେଶୀ ନାହିଁ ତ ମୋର ଗୋଟେ ଛୋଟ ଡାଉଟ୍ ଥିଲା ଆପଣ 2-3 ଲାଇନ୍ ଯଦି କ୍ଲିୟର କରିଦେବେ ଛୋଟ ଡାଉଟ୍ ତ
yes
actually ଆମର କିଛି ଦିନ ତଳେ ଆମେ ନ୍ୟୁଜରେ ପଢିଥିଲେ ଯେ ପଞ୍ଜାବ ଭଳିଆ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ୱେଷ୍ଟ ବେଙ୍ଗଲ ଭଳିଆ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ର ଇକୋନୋମିକ କଣ୍ଡିସନ ବହୁତ ଖରାପ ଶ୍ରୀଲଙ୍କା ଭଳିଆ ହେଇଥିଲା ବୋଲିକି ଆସିଥିଲା ସେ ନ୍ୟୁଜ ଟା କଣ ସତ ଥିଲା ଯଦି ସତ ଥିଲା ତାହେଲେ ଆମର ଅନ୍ୟ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ମାନେ କି ଆମର କଣ୍ଟ୍ରି ଏଜ ଏ ହୋଲ କେତେ ଦୂର ଏଫେକ୍ଟେଡ ହେଇପାରିବ ହବ କି
yes
ଏଫେକ୍ଟେଡ ହବନି
first ମୁଁ କହିଲି we are not
Right.
date wise we are not linked to foreign exchange, very good news, but inside also it is not that we are related in our rupees means is good news, anything you over borrow, so there again is a threshold. So we cannot say we should always be in surplus, correct? जिंदा monthly हिसाब करजे जे हमारी month end से खर्चा अछि suppose 100, okay, so at this point of time I may be 80, but by the end of the time I have planned it will be 100 and I will not be in deficit. Similarly, and a developing country like ours, not like US, where we require a lot of resources like roads build, and how it will happen. So toll bridge also, it is a future receivable that will pay. So till that time I borrow, correct? Either bank borrows or the borrower borrows, so or government borrows inside. Borrows, government kaise borrows? Government will issue government securities and it borrows like that. So government जो issue of securities is a kind of to meet its deficit. Deficit is not bad, as I told you, so long as the rate at you borrow is less than the rate at which you lend, which is give you a better return. Nothing wrong in borrowing. Business is like that. But if you start borrowing at a rate more than what you get, like state governments are doing, subsidies, free rice, all these are out of the income generated from tax. The states which are sufficiently cash rich or tax rich can do it. So now for votes, everybody is doing. Punjab government is a small state, huge deficit, still they are trying to do like this. So by creating overdraft with Reserve Bank of India, and they also borrow from Reserve Bank of India. Okay, so government has, the RBI has given them a limit. उसके बियॉन्ड अगर ओवरड्राफ्ट आप जाएंगे, ओवरड्राफ्ट देना ही पड़ेगा, because that is a necessity, because you never know कब contingency आ जाएगा. Even Orissa government also has, but Orissa government, we are so proud to say, is very financially disciplined. बहुत कम occasion में ओवरड्राफ्ट RBI संगे जीवा, and जरूरत रो आधा deficit नहीं. But deficit, how much deficit again is the threshold? Is okay is the issue. And for India, a country like this, so we have thought 3.5%. 3%, 5% expenditure more than the revenue. But 3.5% also should include state deficits. Correct? So deficit only khali central government rahani. If state government, government finance minister is controlling government deficit, and these opposition states, they are all spending for votes, and ultimately it will snowball into again deficit for the country, because they have to pay somewhere. They will not pay, they will demand from the center. If demand center has money, it will pay. If it doesn't, they will borrow it. Ultimately, it will increase deficit financing. So that is why they
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आज्ञा.
Prime Minister not to be extravagant. So cut your cloth according to your cloth. Make your coat like that. ये लोग एक habit हो गया. The central government दे रहा है free rice, so we will give कम what में, because बीजेपी दे रहा है हम देंगे. अरे आपका अगर क्षमता है तब दीजिए, है ना? So my neighbor has the ability, I don't have, so why I should tell him ये वो कर सकता है, so मैं भी जबरदस्ती करूंगा, then I will be bankrupt. So Punjab and जो आप state बताए, so they are doing without having the means to be able to repay them. So that is dangerous. First for the state and then next for the country.
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଉ ଯଦି କାହାର କିଛି କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ କିଛି ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ନଥିବ ତାହେଲେ ପ୍ରତାପ ଭାଇ ଆପଣ ଟେକ୍ ଓଭର କରନ୍ତୁ ଆଉ ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ଆଗକୁ
ମୋର ଗୋଟେ ପଚାରିବାର ଥିଲା ସାର୍।
ପଚାରନ୍ତୁ।
ସାର୍ ଯେମିତି ଆପଣ କହିଲେ ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ସିଷ୍ଟମ ରେ चारिटा पार्टी परस्पर को इंटरकनेक्टेड अच्छंती बोली
yes yes
ଯେତେବେଳେ ଇଣ୍ଟରକନେକ୍ଟେଡ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ କମନ ଲୋକ ପାଇଁ ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ସିନିୟର ସିଟିଜେନ ବା ମିଡିଲ କ୍ଲାସ ଲୋକ ପାଇଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ରେଟଟା କମି ଯାଉଛି ବା ଇନଫ୍ଲାମେସନ ରେଟଟା ହାୟର ହେଇଯାଉଛି ସେତେବେଳେ ସେମାନେ ବହୁତ ଯୋଉ ଏଫେକ୍ଟେଡ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ତାର କଣ ଇରେଡିକ୍ସନ ଅଛି କି କିଛି ତା ପାଇଁ କିଛି ରିଜର୍ଭ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ କିଛି ସପୋର୍ଟ କରିପାରିବ କି?
Three rates are interconnected. Suppose volatility in exchange rate is controlled in a resilient manner. मुझे तो कोई production semiconductor का बढ़ेगी यदि सेटा मैनेज रहेला so automatically inflation and interest rate also can be managed. So bank spread suppose 3% in India means costs out of deposit and return out of loans and investments suppose 3% is minimum. That to come India they are not able to survive. Developed countries 1% is okay. If that is maintained then only banks can pay us more. Okay, so bank has but sarkar can't kar pariyo. So that is your major question. Like only subsidies should be given to those who need it. Like so bank urgently 0.5% more to pensioners. Achhi na deposit rate. Correct. So if that is subsidized to the banks, as a RBI officer, I should not tell it. I'm just telling as a commoner. Banks are also in trouble for that. So while both should go on demand supply, some vulnerable sections of the society, like pensioner is one, poor women, all this government is doing by giving them what they is free rice. What we want is more interest rate, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So these two are done in a targeted manner. Then expenditure of the government will be less. Now for votes they give it to everybody. Agar interest rate come all will gain. I may not need to gain, but I am also gaining. So long as the poor man. So this can be done. And this is really the way now things are going. Especially our governor is very sympathetic for, not because he's an ODI, I am telling. I have observed him in top management meetings for pensioners. Because PMC Bank, I was the death warrant signing authority. So usually it is dead, RBI should not bother. Dead हो गया हम क्या करेंगे तो हमारा हाथ में नहीं. But he at that point of time always telling no, we will find a way how to revive it because 90% of the affected parties of that bank were pensioners only. So what a vulnerable section oriented expenses, subsidies, subventions is not bad because expenses is limited. But what they are doing for votes, this is given to everybody. You need or you don't need. Then suppose pensioners at a particular level tax rate कम कर दिए परियो. Tax rate कर दिए परियो. जी भाई up to this like 15 लाख पर्यंत now अपन discussion होगी. Suppose you see 1 lakh income. Pensioner income भी 1 lakh पर्यंत no tax is paid and on my investment I get 1% more. Then we are happy. This will not be huge expenses. And I think policies towards that, and I think they're going because requirements are so heavy, so expenses even TKV control is difficult. So that is why they are not adding to burden, but not also reducing burden. That is one way. Other way, price rise. So while in this way, I am losing in interest income. If I get what I require every day at lower cost, so same way. So my income reduced by 1,000 rupees a month. If my monthly expenses is also reduced by 1,000 rupees a month by various ways, then I have no issue. That way or this way or both ways, it can be handled very easily without affecting anything. But politics, so as you know, so it can be aram se done. But who is?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So Pratap babu काम आसिला बोधे.
प्रथम ଆପଣ
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମୁଁ ରବିବାବୁଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ ବହୁତ କମ ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କୁ କହିଥିଲି. ଆପଣମାନେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ରବିବାବୁଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖିଲେ ହାଉ ଏକ୍ସେଲେଣ୍ଟ ଟିଚର ହି ଇଜ. ରବିବାବୁ ଚିଫ ଜେନେରାଲ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ଥିଲାବେଳେ RBI ର कॉलेज ऑफ जो चेन्नई रे कॉलेज अच्छी कॉलेज ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर कहती किंतु सब जिनस सेठी पढ़ा जाए से प्रिंसिपल
कॉलेज ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर पुणे रिजर्व बैंक स्टाफ कॉलेज चेन्नई इज आवर अपेक्स
हाँ
ट्रेनिंग
सॉरी आरबीआई स्टाफ कॉलेज चेन्नई सेटारे से प्रिंसिपल थिले एवं वर्तमान से डायरेक्टर अच्छी कॉलेज ऑफ सुपरवाइजर्स जोटारे जो
आपन सुविधा लगी थियरी आज आई एक्सप्लेन
आज्ञा ये सबु माने सरकार एवं रिजर्व बैंक टॉप मैनेजमेंट जानी जे अति दक्ष लोक अभिज्ञ लोक तेणु से दिखाई आमे माने तार सुविधा नेलु आमुक से अति जेमती पूरा क्लास रे क्लास टीचर बा कौन सी हिस्ट्री टीचर बुझे दियंती नॉर्मली गप कहला स्टाइल रे बाबू आमको गप कहीगला माध्यम रे आम समस्त को इंडियन फाइनेंशियल मार्केट रो स्थिति एवं भविष्यत ए विषय रे प्रांजल भाव रे आमको अति सुंदर भाव रे बुझाई देले एवं आम मानकर ज्ञान वर्धन कले जो चारिटा मेजर पार्ट्स ऑफ फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम जमती मैक्रो इकोनॉमी फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स एवं फाइनेंशियल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से माने केमती इंटरट्विन्ड एवं इंटरकनेक्टेड एवं कोठी गोटे जदि घरे जन को काश है आउ जन को धरिबो बा ट्विन ब्रदर्स को जन को चिमुटिले आउ जन को आउ कोठी बिंधिबो सेमती से इंटरकनेक्शन बिटवीन द फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स विषय बुझेले तीनटा जो मेजर कंडीशंस डिस्टर्बेंसेस इंस्टेबिलिटी एंड क्राइसिस आपण जेमती उदा देले कि जर जर लागुची जर सतरे आसीगला 100-101 जर बा 104 जर है कि भयानक जर है हॉस्पिटल को जाओ पड़ो यही स्थिति गुड़ा विषय बुझेले एवं जर आसवा आगु सिम्पटम देखिक केमती फ्रंट गार्ड एक्शन निया से विषय तीनटा जो मेजर इंपोर्टेंट रेट्स जोड़ा कहले इन्फ्लेशन रेट एक्सचेंज रेट एवं इंटरेस्ट रेट हाउ दे आर इंटरलिंक एवं प्रति जिनसर कौन सी गोटे गोटे जगह जदि कौन सी आघात लगिला सेठी तार जो पत्थरटे पड़गले पानी छल छल हुए सी जाकि आउ गोटे जगह सेटा को आघात दब सेगुड़ा विषय बुझेले एवं से प्रत्येकटा को आरबीआई डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली विभिन्न प्रकार रे केमती मैनेज करती माने एक्सचेंज रेट रे जदि किछि प्रॉब्लम हैला सांगे सांगे एक्सचेंज रेट रे सब बेले इंटरवेंशन करिकरी फॉरेन करेंसी बाय बा सेल कर न करिकरी इंटरेस्ट रेट को देकरी मैनेज करती बा कौन सी पॉलिसी माध्यम रे इन्फ्लेशन को कम बेसी करिया पे मैनेज करिए जो थरे इंटरेस्ट रेट अफेक्टेड हबो एवं करेंसी उपरे फॉरेन करेंसी उपरे प्रेशर कम हबो फॉरेन करेंसी उपरे प्रेशर जेमती फॉरेन कंपनीज जो माने इन्वेस्ट करूचंती पळेबेनी बिकॉज इंडिया रे रिटर्न बेसी मिलिबो ए सब देखिकरी से माने कहले आरबीआई को जो कहले गोटे वर्ड रे स्थित प्रज्ञ समस्त जिनिस रे वोलाटिलिटी को मैनेज करिवे बियॉन्ड ए थ्रेशोल्ड पॉइंट ताकू उथल पुथल हवा को देबे नाही एई जिनसटा को केमती आरबीआई बड़े कैपेबल वे रे मैनेज करूची इन वेरी डिफिकल्ट एंड डिस्ट्रेस सिचुएशंस आल्सो आरबीआई केमती नेविगेट करके ता भितरे आम देश को सुदृढ़ कर रखिची से जिनस भी बुझेले एवं फ्यूचर रेसिलियंस विषय रे भी आम मान को कहि देले जे भविष्यत रे जेमती आमे पूरा सुदृढ़ होई कि रहिबा से विषयटा को केमती आरबीआई विभिन्न स्टेप्स नेची से विषय भी आम मान को बुझेले जेमती माने कैरेक्टर ऑफ रिजर्व बैंक जेमती कंट्रोल ऑफ रिजर्व बैंक जेमती कोपिंग विथ डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशंस जोड़ा मैनेज करे ये सब 3-4टा सी जो कहा जाए रेसिलियंस रो सेटा को रिजर्व बैंक केते सुदृढ़ सुचारू रूप भाव में मैनेज करिछि एगुड़ा बुझिले एवं सत कथा कहया बोले मु एथि आज रवि बाबू माध्यम रे आम समस्त तरफ रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया को धन्यवाद एवं आदर संबर्धना करने को चाहूँगी जो प्रकार भाव बहुत डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशन रे सुविंदु बाबू समस्त माने जानतु रिजर्व बैंक जो प्रकार भाव देशटा को एप्रोप्रिएट हम कि नहीं जानी पानी किंतु डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशन को उद्धार कर रखी से सारा विश्व रे आज रिजर्व बैंक सम्मानित सेंट्रल बैंक हिसाब से गणा जाए एवं विभिन्न भाव से आरबीआई रो टॉप मैनेजमेंट लोक मान को नहीं जमती रवि बाबू को ओमान सरकार नहीं थे सेमती नहीं विभिन्न जगह एक्सपर्टाइज को व्यवहार कराउची जोटा देश पई गोटे गर्वर विषय मध्य बाकी सुंदर क्वेश्चन गुड़े जो सुतार भाई पचारे रिपो रेट रिवर्स रेट रिपो कौन अति सुंदर भाव में बुझे रब बाबू प्रताप मिश्र भाई जो एक्सचेंज रोड लॉन्ग रन रे केमती कंट्रोल करा आरबीआई सेटा को बुझेले जेमती आमर इंपोर्ट मैनेजमेंट को जदि 10 वर्षर इंपोर्ट कौन अच्छी सेटा को कंट्रोल अन्य भाव
प्रताप भाई
में
ଟିକେ
फॉरेन करेंसी
shortcut
ऊपर स्ट्रेस
କରିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ,
कम
time
रहइबो
time
एक्सचेंज
ହେଇଯାଉଛି।
रेट ऑटोमेटिकली मैनेज हो जिवो आ शुभेंदु भाईकर जो विभिन्न स्टेट रे ओवरड्राफ्ट एक्सेट्रा होची ताकू केमती मैनेज करे से विषय कहले आ रेणुका भौणीकर जो कहले जे चारिटा पार्ट्स विषय रे जदि किछि जो चारि प्रकार रो हमर पार्ट्स ऑफ इकोनॉमी अछि ता विषय रे केमती डिस्ट्रेस हेले केमती मैनेज करा जिवो रब बाबू अति सुंदर भाव में बुझेले रब बाबू आपन को आ कोन आपन कंक्लूजन रे जो तीनोटी वर्ड कहले सेतिरे सबु जिंस होई गला प्रथम स्थिति होची देशर इकोनॉमिक कंडीशंस बा वित्तीय स्थिति समृद्ध एवं सुदृढ़ एथिरे कोनसी संदेह नहीं एवं भविष्यत उज्जवल एथिरे मध्य कोनसी संदेह नहीं एई तीनोटी वर्ड संक्षिप्त वर्ड बट ब्रेविटी इज द सोल ऑफ इट आपण समस्त जिंस कहले आपण को अतिशय धन्यवाद एवं आपण को समस्त तरफ नमस्कार वर्तमान आई थिंक रेणुका भौणी बोधे धन्यवाद अर्पण करिवे रेणुका भौणी आपण वर्तमान रब्बम को बा समस्त को धन्यवाद दियंतु प्लीज
आज्ञा नमस्कार आज्ञा समस्त को नमस्कार जिंदगी आपण कहले संजोग परिवार गोटे लाइक माइंडेड सीनियर सिटीजन रो व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप संजोग परिवार गोटे the core value of MAC groups founded by Dr. Hariprasad Das is an add value to human life through various initiative. एटा जोटा हमें देखिले हमें अपन तो डिटेल सब कहले मु विशेष कहबार नहीं किंतु जो बरण्य लोक मन अछंती डॉक्टर दास डॉक्टर सुतार भाई डॉक्टर रवि मिश्र शुभेंदु सर प्रताप सर समस्त को मोर भूमिष्ठ प्रणाम जनाऊँगी आपण मैंने एत ज्ञानी गुणी लोक मध्य मु गोटे साधारण लोक धन्यवाद प्रस्ताव दूसरी किंतु एथिरे मो आल्दो मो गोटे इकोनॉमिक्स ऑनर स्टूडेंट किंतु 40 वर्ष तळे थिली एबे से विषय मोर विशेष किछि ज्ञान नाही तथापि जेतिकी मु चेष्टा कली ग्रहण करिवा पे बहुत 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 भल लागला मो विशेष टाइम नेबाक चाहनी मु खाली एतिकी कहबी जे सर जो हमर फ्यूचर ता वर्तमान तो जहा कहले आपण मोर केतरे क्वेरी ता क्लियर कर देले किंतु फ्यूचर ऑफ इंडिया इज सेफ एंड स्टेबल जो कहले आ भारत रे वित्तीय क्षेत्र समृद्ध उज्जवल बुझ कहले सेटा हम समस्त पे बहुत बहुत माने आश्वासन देछि आ सेति भी हमें अपन पाखे कृतज्ञ हमको गोटे ठीक धाराटा हमको देखि देले हमें जानि लिखछि तथापि अपन पाखे हमर मनटा भांगिला नै और किछि बहुत किछि क्वेरी अछि जहा कि हमें नेक्स्ट आउथर केबे अपन टाइम देले हमें अपन साइ कथा के इंटरेक्शन ती कर परिबा थैंक यू धन्यवाद समस्त मो बेसी समय न होनी समस्त को धन्यवाद
माउथरे क्षमा भिक्षा करछि गला थर जो मिस्टेक पई
एथिरे कंपनसेशन हे गेला सर किछि असुविधा हेनी हमर
ओके
रेणुका भौणी
आज्ञा
रेणुका भौणी आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद प्रस्ताव सुंदर भाव में देले आ वर्तमान आज कार्यक्रम आम शेष करवा आर थर आमर प्रवक्ता अच्छा डॉक्टर निर्मल सूत्र मिश्र से गोटे नुआ अलग सब्जेक्ट निरा सब्जेक्ट नहीं सी विषय वस्तु नहीं आमको कहे कार्यक्रम टाक संचालन करेंगे जितेन्द्र भाई श्री जितेन्द्र कुमार महांती और वर्तमान आम ये वाइंड अप करवा ये बंद करवा और समस्त को आउ धन्यवाद रेणुका भौणी को समस्त को आम प्रवक्ता संचालक रेणुका धन्यवाद अर्पण कर भौणी समस्त को आउ धन्यवाद नमस्कार जय जगन्नाथ
थैंक यू